Hey, welcome everyone. So Mark, I want to start the conversation out with you and kind of get the background for how this entire partnership began, because when it comes to marketing, you've had many different options. You could have gone traditional advertising, even a Super Bowl spot, but you chose F1. Tell me why.
Right. Well, it seems like the ends of the spectrum are like, are you going to spend more on an online campaign, or are you going to do a Super Bowl ad? And what we wanted to do was do something a little bit less typical. And we're a business that is about $700 million in revenue, 80% of our revenue out of North America, 20% internationally. So when we thought about advertising abroad and doing brand, there were really two options. And the first one was soccer, global sport, huge fan base, and the other one was auto racing, F1 in particular. There are 1.5 billion people who watch this in aggregate every year, 1.5 billion. And after you look at the economics and the reasons, all the rational things for why you do this, then there's the what interests you also. And for us, car racing and F1 definitely took the lead. That's why we chose it.
And I know that the sponsorship is about more than just the logo on the car, Edward. That's something that I know McLaren has repeated to their sponsors. And so how do you approach partnerships like the one with Smartsheet?
Well, I think first and foremost, you've got to have the best technology to go racing in one of the best formulas in the world. So there's not a lot of room to take risks and gambles. You've got to go and find the absolute best, and also find partners that really care. We want partners that want us to go faster. We want partners that want to help us push our organization right to the edge. And so, when we talk about partnerships, it's really a two-way street. It's more about how do we work together? How do we try and solve some big challenges, both inside the race team and then also outside the race team as well. So, true partnerships are us taking responsibility for their brand being on our car, and also the other teams and partners helping us, deploy technology and improve our capabilities.
Right. And so I do want to get into the actual impact of the sponsorship, but first, Mark, I want you to explain to me and take me through this decision that you guys made at the Australian GP to actually take the logo off of the car, which I think is unconventional, especially with an F1 sponsorship.
Yeah, I think the question from the CFO after he wrote the multi-million-dollar check was, you're doing what with the logo? And I think what McLaren challenged us on early on was, the typical thing you do is you put your logo on the car, you invite your important clients to the races, some of the races, and you get exposure on TV. And what Zach and team really stressed was, don't stick to the conventional approach. Like, stretch us, challenge us. So we decided to really challenge them by saying, would you allow us to take our logo off the car? To which they said, why would you do that? And it was in spirit of putting someone else's logo on, someone who typically wouldn't be able to write a multi-million-dollar check. So we found a very small nonprofit in Australia that is focused on delivering STEM resources to Aboriginal kids. Kids who have never seen a race, kids who are underprivileged, who don't have assets. So we took a multi-million-dollar value, took our logo out of the equation, put theirs on the car, and what happened after that was pretty remarkable in terms of the impact of these kids and what happened to that organization.
Yeah, what was the reception and the impact from both of you on that sponsorship?
Well, we had, I think we had 60 different articles of coverage for this nonprofit called Deadly Science. It's a team of 4 people that's lightly funded. So picture them coming to the race, seeing their logo on it, getting all this coverage. So huge spike in donations, which was incredible. You had other companies learn about them, sponsor them as well, or fund them. So a multi-million-dollar impact for that company over the course of a few days, that organization.
That's excellent.
Ed?
I think just inside the team, there was 2 things that happened. Firstly, it's really unusual for a sponsor to come to you and say, for the first race, to launch the partnership, can we take the logo off the car? And as a team, we loved that. It was challenging. It made us think. We all stopped after the meeting. We all sat on that video call, messaging each other, going, "Are they really going to do this?" And it was great, to see someone push the boundaries to do something challenging, and also the reception inside the team. We've launched some great D&I programs. We've got a McLaren Engage, which is our way of going out and trying to tackle some of the issues that we're seeing. But to have a partner come to us and do this with us was just phenomenal. And the atmosphere it created inside the team and the buzz and people saying, what a great thing to do collectively, that was pretty special and pretty unique to start like that. So I think, it's a big thank you to the team, really. More than anything else.
So let's get into the actual impact of the sponsorship on the racing itself, because that's obviously what people want to hear. And so, Edward, just take me through how the partnership with Mark and Smartsheet has actually affected McLaren's day-to-day operations.
Yeah, so the day-to-day operations of an F1 team is complex, to say the least. And also, we're a very lean function. So what we look for is we try and put out their platforms and we try and put out capabilities into the team that they can adopt and build themselves. And so whether or not that's somebody working in the marketing function or the events function or somebody who's running race operations, we want them to be able to pick up and learn and build themselves. And so Smartsheet for us was a kind of just this amazing tool when it came in, about how do we improve our efficiencies? Otherwise the danger is you grow and grow your people, but you're not giving them the right tools to do the job. So if you're not giving them the right tools to do the job, then you just end up with this massive organization of people that don't really sort of gel and work in the right way. And so we're lucky. We've got a really curious organization that wants to do so much. So firstly, Smartsheet came in and helped us solve some basic challenges. And what we always look for is we try to create these sort of use case heroes. We don't try and go and solve the big finance challenge. We don't go and try and solve the biggest, most pressing issue inside our organization. We try and find the person that's staying late on a Thursday night to finish their reports. We try and find the person that's sat there trawling through the Excel sheet and sending loads of emails. And we try and make them rock stars. And so my team go around and really empower those people that are ordinary inside the organization, and then we shout as loudly as we can to everyone else inside McLaren to say, look, here's how we help someone else, and here's the tools you can use to do your job more effectively and more efficiently. The second really cool innovation was, through Drive to Survive, through Netflix, the demand and hunger for content is like nothing I've ever seen before. We now shoot as much content as the cars produce telemetry. And so we've now got this enormous swell of digital assets, rendered assets, videography, photography, all coming at us. So there's this stream of incoming data which we don't know what to do with. And then there's this historic library. We've been capturing data for the last 40, 50 years, stretching back to Mika Hakkinen, David Coulthard, Ayrton Senna. We've got some of the most amazing photography and videography sat there. And I must confess, it was inside a cupboard with a lock on it. And it was just piling up with hard drives. So, the logical solution is you shift that to a storage vendor and you back it up. But that doesn't help us improve our team's capability. And so by using Brand Folder by Smartsheet, we could put all of our content in there, and it does this intelligent tagging. We have over 50 partners in McLaren Racing, and so servicing them with the most, the best content for their social campaigns, for their TV advertisements, for their internal company messaging. That's a really tough ask for us to have to sift through all this internal library. And so by putting it in the Brand Folder by Smartsheet crew, we could go in and now search for anything. You can search for Zach Brown in Barcelona, and it will find you photos of Zach Brown at the Barcelona race. You can go in and search for a sponsor's logo on the car and find them at particular places, and it allows them to create this amazing rich content which just helps push our brand forward. So the team with Smartsheet have really kind of helped us internally to be more efficient, but also push ourselves out there even further. So it's been great.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, so many of us have used Dropbox Drive, OneDrive, whatever the asset is, or the tool is to store stuff. And I think the thing that people are now realizing is that you can take digital assets, pictures, video, upload those into a tool like Brand Folder, and every single frame, every single image is inspected, every single frame, every image is auto-inspected and tagged. So if I say, hey, I want a picture with a Smartsheet logo present on the engine cover with Daniel's face showing, I search that and the results come back. And from a time-saving standpoint, when vendors or sponsors have all these inquiries going to the team, the speed with which they can do that is essential to, one, honoring their contracts to the sponsor, and then two, getting more done quickly. So it's really been an unlock for the team. And I think we shipped something like 92 terabytes of archive to Brand Folder, and all of that historical content is now unlockable. So search on Senna, search on any past driver, all of them come back in an instant.
And that has to be just a great thing for the fans and for the fan base that has grown so much, especially here in North America.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Drive to Survive, I think I was just out in Montreal. Everybody was coming up saying this was their first F1 race. They were attending a race for the very first time. Some people said they were going to see their first season of F1, which thanks to Netflix. But it's phenomenal to see this growth. But with it comes, new demands from fans. We used to look at our fans as what we call trend fans that love the love the Super Bowl, they love the 7th game of the World Series, they want to know about the driver's lifestyle, they want to know how they got to the track. And then we used to have what we call avid fans. These were people that had watched F1 with their parents growing up. They love knowing the lap time, the tyre temperature. They'd want to get all the data and insight. And Netflix has completely turned that on its head, and we've got to think of new ways to engage with our fans. But this thirst and this demand for content is higher than ever, and it doesn't work if you're sort of trying to piece it together. You need to bring it all together into one sort of holistic platform that we can look at as a team, and then make sure we can publish and approve content faster than possible. And that's really, we are custodians of other, partners' brands, and so we feel a huge responsibility when we've got their logo on the car that we want to make sure that's portrayed in the right way. And so there is a huge amount of energy and effort that goes into curating and collecting that content. But as I said, otherwise that scales with people, and now we're really fortunate that through a lot of the AI tagging, a lot of the hard work from the team inside Brandfolder, we're able to do that at scale now. And yeah, we've uploaded, I think we're almost close to 1 million assets inside Brandfolder, and we've been going since February.
Wow. And that momentum also has to be great for Smartsheet and this sponsorship overall, this hungry fan base in North America.
Yeah, it's global, right? It's Singapore, it's Canada, it's Austria, it's France, Azerbaijan. You have so many markets, and you really get a sense that there's a lot of commonality across all those markets in some ways. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that blew my mind when I first got introduced to the team, like the sequence is learn about the opportunity, binge watch, Drive to Survive, get as smart as you can, and then ask a bunch of smart questions, or try to. And I think one of the things that blew me away was when we first met, Ed, you said, don't send me a big quote for a big implementation. That's not how we roll. Like F1 rolls, we want to start fast, and then you remember you said we make changes incrementally all the time. So every 4 minutes, on average, McLaren's making a change to its car.
Yep.
So the mindset is, you better deploy super fast for me, and then you have to make incremental improvement, and by the end of the season, you better be a lot faster than you were at the beginning of the season. So it's been interesting to serve McLaren with that mindset. But I think the momentum that's happening, especially in North America right now, is like, you don't just want to engage with something at scale, you want to be with something that's trending. And I think the technology changes also, I think so much of it is available to people, but people don't fully know yet what's possible. And I think that's a big part of what our job is now. How do you spread the word? How do you get people understanding what they could do quickly and probably a lot more cheaply than they thought they could? Mm-hmm. And that's part of the mission.
Yeah, I think we often talk about this culture of marginal gains where lots and lots of small little improvements stack up to one big change. And when you look at the challenge that faced us when we had to go and migrate all of our content, tag it, make use of it, be able to distribute it to our partners, we were talking over 90 terabytes of physical volume of disk in the office. And that's way too, and we were thinking, do we go and open up a summer intern program to have thousands of hours tagged? And, that's not it's interesting, but it's not a fun job to come and do and sit there and tag content for 6 weeks of your summer vacation. So, you look to challenge partners. We look to move really quickly, make lots of small marginal changes. And that was a challenge to the team at Smartsheet was, well, how do we go about doing that? How do you give us the expertise? And how do we then absorb that as a team? And what we're seeing now is that, we put a lot of energy and a lot of resource collectively into the first use case. And so we built some incredible tools to help us launch our cars. When we launched an F1 car this last March for our new season, we launched our F1 car, we launched our Indy car, we launched our Extreme E car, and we launched our esports livery all on the same day. Now it's 800 different assets in one day that had to be in the right place at the right time, distributed to media, distributed to fans, distributed to partners. So 800 different assets, and we centralized that, and the team helped us build that first solution. But since then, I struggled to keep track of what people are doing with Smartsheet. And so we've gone from this, being advocates and being the champions, and now my team has have to shift it into being the governors. They have to look into governance, and they have to think, how's this going to scale across the organization? How do we keep our data? What are we going to do with it? How do we increase reporting? How do we help people take the shortcuts? And so now more than ever, it's gone from that, how do people adopt it quickly, to how do we make sure we've got control and governance wrapped around it? And for me, truly, I've not seen that happen so quickly with any other technology implementation. Normally it sits in the back room, it will sit in the data center. This is live, people are using it, they're using it through the browser, on their phone at trackside, and people are coming up to Mark at events and saying, your Smartsheet, here's what I've done with it. And that's, you don't get that from many relationships. So it truly is pretty special what we're doing, and I love that it's empowering our teams, to become their own heroes in what they're doing.
Right. And so, I mean, clearly everything in F1 runs at super speed. And Mark, how have you found the working with the team at McLaren and how your cultures overlap and kind of the lessons you've learned in having to work so closely alongside them?
Yeah, I think when we looked at all the teams, they each have their personality, right? Some are all about the car, the engineering, and then the sponsors play a role of funding, but they're not really intertwined with it. I think McLaren looks at it when you look at their fan ratings in terms of their two drivers being the most popular drivers with the fan base, the ability for them to engage on a social dimension, which some teams are less focused on. That was just like when we think about building the technology, it's like, what is the endpoint that's being impacted? So when I think of why our engineers are building forms or digital asset management, if you tell the story about you can take a form and you can automate it, it falls into the who cares camp. When you think about enabling an organization which has very limited resources to do something that drives STEM education in Australia, it's like, well, that sounds pretty interesting. So it's all about impact. And I think McLaren stands out in looking at things holistically, as opposed to we're a race engineering team or we're a marketing team. They really have that balance. And I think what we strive to do as a company is how do you not just solve for one thing? And I think they exemplify that.
Yeah. And at McLaren, Edward, this has clearly made your day-to-day easier, and you don't have someone scrolling through thousands of photos after every single race to try to tag things. What does this allow you to do and focus on, given it's making everything so efficient?
I think we can really focus on the analytics behind the scenes. So what we're able to do now through Brand Folder and Smartsheet is look at which assets are popular. And so rather than partners coming to us and saying, hey, could we get a photo of the engine cover with the logo and Daniel's face, we can see that those are popular imagery. And so more it's making us kind of make those data-driven decisions, even as far as the content is going. On the F1 side, that's really natural, right? You make a decision because you're seeing some telemetry which is showing you the tires are too hot or the suspension's too high or there's damage to a part of the car, and you make decisions that way. And now even in the marketing function, through these tools, we're able to see that's a popular piece of content. No one's interested in this one. People are commenting that they're not, super excited by how we're shooting things. And then as partners continue to work with us, we do big campaigns like Sponsor X. We've done some TV commercials this year, just managing and wrangling that content and that approval process so we keep our brand secure. It's allowing us to now think bigger and think about what other content we could produce for people. With our partners, the content tends to be very organic. It's not always sort of, showcasing a product as almost like a TV spot. It's about sort of how that naturally helps us behind the scenes. And so for me, we're just starting to see those analytics come through, and it's exciting to see how the content production team are using that to see, I'm getting good feedback about this type of imagery, and I'm not getting good feedback about this type, or this image is really popular, and that reinforces it. So then partners make less requests, and we're being more proactive and servicing them better as a customer.
And do you expect technology to just continue playing an increasingly important role in F1 and the management of the McLaren team?
Yeah, I think our margins are hundredths of seconds. The gap on the grid can be 0.15%, and so you have to turn and you have to lean into technology. As we grow, we've now got, when I joined McLaren, there was a Formula One team. Now there's a Formula One team, a North American IndyCar team. We've got 4x4 off-roading with electrics. We've got a Formula E team. We've got esports. And who knows by the time we reach the end of the year what else we'll have with us. And so growing that scale and growing as a team, it's really important to have great technology and great partners to help us go and deliver that. And also partners that listen to you. We can challenge each other and have those open conversations. We can talk about delivery mechanisms. We can talk about all sorts of the ways we go about, collaborating together. And so for me, I think it's just, how do we scale what we're doing, and how do we put the fans at the center of that and just deliver these awesome fan experiences that people just love and get excited by. Walking around the conference today, it's lovely meeting people, but we want to make sure they know our content and they get that as quickly as they can.
So Mark, safe to say the CFO is on board with the partnership and is glad you guys went this path?
Yeah, and it was, I think, one just sort of inside baseball story about when the sponsorship was signed. Usually someone looks to maximize the term of a sponsorship. So usually it's like a 3 or 4 or 5 year deal. So Zach said, 2-year deal. I go, Zach, why only a 2-year deal? Wouldn't you? He goes, I know it's 2 years because I know you're going to love what we do. And then I'm going to ask you for an extension halfway through year one. And it was a very atypical approach where some people are trying to get you to lock in early. McLaren's like, we're so confident in our brand that we're going to have a super short one, and that we're going to have you buy more from us at year two. So it's a very interesting way to approach business. And I think, again, exemplifies the type of organization they are.
Well, thank you both, Mark and Edward, for taking the time to speak to us today. I'm sure everyone really appreciated it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you.
Thanks.